Okay, so now it's time to have fun. We're going to actually wire up the media element to play the sounds. I'll also do a little cleanup and get the filtering to work by selecting one of the categories to only show those categories in the grid view. So let's go ahead and get started here. And I'm going to open up the main page.xaml. And in here, what I want to do is handle the, I think this is it, the list view item click event. Let me make sure that's the correct event handler. So basically when somebody selects one of the items in this sound grid view that we created, we want to play the sound that's associated with the image that was clicked on. So actually this is the event handler that we want, sound grid view item click. Let me go ahead and I think we don't need this one anymore. If we do, we'll add it back. All right, and so here it's pretty easy stuff. All we need to do is grab the item that was clicked on, and so that'll be given to us here in this item click event args e. And we can just choose the clicked item and then cast that to what we want it, what it represents, which is a sound in our application. So I can do something like this: var sound equals the clicked item, cast it to sound, and then we'll set, I think it called it myMediaElement.source, and we'll just set it to that sound's audio file property. Now to do this, we actually need to give it a URI. If you hover over, you can see the source property accepts a URI, which is a uniform resource indicator, and that's just going to be a location for the file. Now what we need to do, there's a couple of different ways to go about this. I think the easiest way is just to specify the base URI. That will give us like the root of the project, and then we can give it the actual audio file that will contain the /assets/audio/category/sound. So we'll just do this.base URI, and then we'll use the sound.audio file. All right, and with any luck, this will actually work. So let's see what we've got so far. All right, it's time for the moment of truth. Okay, so it was that easy. That's all we needed to do to wire everything up. Great. Now when we ran the application, there were some other issues with layout, with the hamburger navigation. Let's go ahead and fix some of those things, because that's really what's holding us back now. Let me take note of a few things, rerunning the application here, and we'll just address them little by little. Alright, so you can see here that we've got some issues with each of the list view items. They need to, well, the text needs to be moved down a little bit. If we can move things to the left a bit, that would be helpful, because we want them to line up with the hamburger icon. So generally some spacing issues there. As far as these items, they need to be pushed off from the left-hand side a bit, because it's just kind of running together here in that upper kind of left-hand corner area. So let's work on those two things right now. Let's go over to the main page.xaml. Now, as far as the media element is concerned, we're going to use it at length for another project, and we're going to learn how to manipulate the sounds and how much of the sound to play. How do we manipulate the volume so that it nicely fades out instead of abruptly ends, when we get to another project that we're going to work on together. So this is really our first introduction to the media element. It can also play videos, which I don't think we're going to demonstrate in this series, but if you take a look at the previous series that I created for 8.1, so Windows Phone 8.1 development for absolute beginners, I demo how to display video using the media element. Okay, so let's go up here to the list view, and what we want to do first of all is I'm going to separate some of these on other lines. One of the first things I'm going to try to do is set a negative margin because I really want that image to move to the left quite a bit. And we've not talked about negative margins. Let's just try like negative 15 and maybe then 10 on the top, 0 on the right, and 10 on the bottom. That should make things a little bit more interesting there. And as far as the text block, I think we need to set the the vertical alignment equal to the center. That should move things down a little bit. Let's see what kind of impact that has. All right, so that definitely moved things over to the left, which is great. And it looks like we've centered the text. That's good too. The last thing it's a hard call, right? I think what we ultimately need are these icons to be a tiny bit smaller. And maybe that would fix some of the issues there. So let's back off on this to a -10 and then set the height and the width of these just a tiny bit smaller there. And maybe even create a little more height and or actually margin between each of the items. The other thing that I want to do now is come over to this in the content area. I want to, on that whole item, that whole content area, I want to push things out a little bit. So I'm going to set the margin on the left to 20, and then I'll just go zeros for the rest of this until I get a chance to look at it a little bit. See what we have there. So you can see that this is a lot of tinkering, just seeing, does that look right? What if we do this? I probably should even make those icons a bit smaller. They're still pretty large. So let me do that. But I like the spacing here. We might even come down from the top a little bit. So let's make those two adjustments. Let's make the icons a tiny bit smaller. So let's go like 35. And 35 here. I'm going to reduce that back down to 10. It was just a little bit too much margin on the top and bottom. And then the other thing that I wanted to do was here I'm going to set 20. Let's try 20 from the top. That should push that grid down 20 from the top, giving us a little more space there. All right, I feel a little bit better about that. That might be a bit much, but overall, I like where we're going with this. The next thing I want to do is get the menu actually working, so it actually filters. So let's work on that part right there. And the list view that we have, we're going to accept input from the menu items list view ItemClick event handler, and here again, what I want to do is grab that event item that was clicked on from the ItemClick event args E. So once again, I'm going to grab the e.clicked item. I'm going to cast it this time to menu item. Remember, that was the class that represent each of the items that we're binding to. And I'll do var menu item equals. There we go. Great. And now what we want to do here is filter on by category. Great. So we'll set the category. I think we have a category text box. If not, let's see what we call that. Okay, category text block. Let's grab that. Text equals then the menu item dot category, and we'll just do a toString on that. That should give us what we need there. In this point, we want to change our sounds collection. Remember that that is a observable collection of sound. And so what we're going to want to do is filter that. So we're going to call the sound manager dot get sounds by category this time, passing in our observable collection of sound and then the sound category. So menu item dot category. All right, so that should give us what we need. What's wrong here? Oh, I see. Yeah, we can't set it equal. Sorry, forgot how I designed that method. And I'm not even sure that we need to do anything else. I think that's just the only two things we need to do. So let's go ahead and try that. So let's say I only want animals, I only want taunts, I only want warnings, I only want cartoons. Awesome. Okay, so that works. Now we want to get the back button to work. Really the back button should only be displayed whenever we click on one of the items. So really at this point we should say, hey, back button, go ahead and set your visibility equal to visibility.visible. Otherwise, it should be set to collapsed. All right, when we see all of the items, I think. All right, so let's try that, and let's see, and I may have to adjust that. I've kind of forgotten what I need to do there. But whenever we hit the back button, what we want to do is actually go back to that, to all sounds. So here we'll go sound manager dot get all sounds, and we'll just pass in our sounds. And we're going to tell that menu items list view dot selected item equals null, so nothing will be selected then. It'll be just back to its original state. And that's all we should have to do. So let's see if that actually works. Okay, so all sounds initially, then we're going to say, hey, give me just the taunts. Notice that the back button showed up. I'm going to hit the back button. I see we have some work to do here. We're not 100%. We'll hit the back button. We want to go back to all sounds. So and then we would also want to make that back button visibility equals visibility dot collapsed. All right, so let's pay attention to that state one more time here, specifically that back button. Okay, we don't see a back button, and we're viewing all sounds. Now we want to go taunts, and then I'll hit back button, all sounds. Now we could implement this in a more robust way and keep track of the various pages that were loaded in, and then just call navigation dot go back, but I'm not doing it that way. The back button will just take us back to all sounds. So it's really just a matter of how you want to implement it, but I feel comfortable with this approach. Scares me. I actually scared myself to death. I didn't realize I was going to make a sound. I forgot. All right, so at any rate, that's exciting stuff, right? We made a lot of progress on this one, and I think the next thing we're going to do is add some drag and drop functionality. That will be interesting. So we'll be able to take a sound off of our desktop and drag and drop it in, and then hear it, add it to the list, and then actually hear it. So that'll be a big one. We'll do that in the next lesson. Thanks.